Welcome to 6 Degrees of Wiki, a podcast where two sisters find the 6 degrees of separation between Wikipedia articles that don't seem to have anything in common. I'm Nikki.
And I'm Rosanna. Today we'll fall into a Wikipedia spiral where Nikki has just 6 rounds to figure out how the first article could possibly be connected to the last, while learning all sorts of peculiar facts along the way. Let's get started. This month we've spiraled from D-Day to Phenomenon.
Round 1.
Today, we are spiraling from Phenomenon to Star.
Oh. Like me? Am I the star?
No. This is not about you, Nikki.
Dang it!
As we learned last week, a phenomenon is anything that manifests itself. They're often understood as things that appear or experiences for a sentient being. A star is a luminous spheroid of plasma held together by its own gravity. Nikki, do you see anything that these 2 degrees have in common?
Gravity is a phenomenon, yeah?
Yeah.
So, the star's held together by its own gravity. That totally counts. I've solved it, people. We're done here.
Okay, see you next week.
What is it really?
So, regarding a phenomenon. The term phenomenon came into its modern usage when it was used by Immanuel Kant, who made the comparison to noumenon, which is an object or an event that exists independent of human sensor or perception. Kant was influenced by German philosopher Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz and ancient Greek philosopher Sextus Empiricus, who also used phenomenon and noumenon as interrelated terms. In his inaugural dissertation on the form and principles of the sensible and intelligible world in 1770, Kant theorized that the mind is restricted to the logical world. It can only interpret and understand occurrences according to their physical appearances. Humans can only infer as much as our senses will allow. So the term phenomenon refers to an incident deserving investigation, especially events that are particularly unusual. In popular usage, phenomenon often refers to an extraordinary event or occurrence that defies explanation at first. According to the Dictionary of Visual Discourse, which is a thing, it refers to any occurrence worthy of note and investigation, and it's typically an unusual event, a person, or a fact.
Hey, that's what our degrees are usually. An event, a person, or a fact.
Yes. So my interesting fact is other types of phenomenon. They include an atmospheric phenomenon, which is an observable event resulting from the interaction of light and matter. There's also an emergent phenomenon. That is when the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. A natural phenomenon would be like fog, thunder, tornadoes, decomposition, volcanic eruptions, and earthquakes. And a paranormal phenomenon, like ghosts, aliens, UFOs, psychic abilities, cryptids, and extrasensory perception.
Round 2.
Nikki, what do you think the next degree is?
All right, Rosanna, you know you got me with those last parts of your interesting facts.
I got you good.
Paranormal and cryptids and ESP, and I can't say no. I have to do it. Which one?
Which one indeed?
We've done supernatural before. I'm not sure if that is too similar to paranormal. I'm gonna pick either cryptids or ESP. I'm gonna go... I love cryptids. Let's go with cryptids.
Okay. Your guess of cryptids is incorrect.
Is it ESP?
The next degree is Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz.
You cannot see the look on my face right now, but I am not happy with you. Yes. How dare you do this to me?
I mean, at least it wasn't Hitler.
It's too late for that.
Okay. So Leibniz was a German polymath and philosopher that lived from 1646 to 1716. He was one of the most prolific inventors in the field of mathematical calculators. He sounds like a party animal.
He does.
He invented the Leibniz wheel, which was used for 3 centuries before the electronic calculator was invented in the 1970s. He also refined the binary number system, which is the foundation of virtually all digital computers.
Oh, that's handy.
He was raised by his mother alone after his father passed away when he was 6. His father had been a professor of moral philosophy, and he left his entire personal library to Leibniz, who had free access to it from age 7.
Wow.
And it included texts that he would not have been exposed to otherwise until college. Based on the readings that he did from this library, he was proficient in Latin by the time he was 12.
Man.
He completed a bachelor's degree in philosophy at age 16. 2 years later, earned a master's.
Goodness.
His dissertation argued about the relationship between philosophy and law. After a year of legal studies, he was awarded a bachelor's degree in law, and he wrote his first book at 19. He wanted to earn a license and a doctorate in law, but his application was turned down, probably because he was too young. So he left the school. He's like, I'm taking my brain and going home.
I feel really unaccomplished after hearing this guy's achievements.
He ended up getting the license after enrolling in another school the same year, and then turned down the offer of an academic appointment there. They were like, you're smart, please stay and teach. He was a prominent figure in the history of math and philosophy, and developed differential and integral calculus independent of Isaac Newton, though Newton did accuse him of having seen his unpublished work on calculus and stealing it. Ugh, awkward.
Oh.
This began the calculus priority dispute. That's all in caps. Calculus priority dispute. And the accusation followed him for the rest of his life.
Oh.
Previous supporters sided with Newton and left him out of favor. His funeral wasn't very heavily attended, even though he was a member of the Royal Society and the Berlin Academy of Sciences, and his grave went unmarked for more than 50 years.
That's just mean.
However, some mathematical historians have acquitted him of stealing calculus, I guess.
Stealing calculus. It's the most boring heist movie ever written.
He was well known for his optimism and his conclusion that our universe is the best possible one that God could have created.
Oh.
He was an advocate of rationalism, which is the idea that reason is the chief source and test of knowledge, and his work anticipated modern logic and analytical philosophy. He made major contributions to physics, technology, probability theory, biology, medicine, psychology, linguistics, and computer science. And he wrote about philosophy, politics, law, ethics, and theology.
Goodness.
His written contributions are included in books, journals, thousands of letters, and unpublished manuscripts. He also wrote in several languages, primarily in Latin, French, and German. And many writers have, quote-unquote, cleared his name and have proved his substantial contributions to many fields.
That's good.
Also, many things have been named after him, including the Leibniz algebra, the Leibniz notation, Leibniz law, and there's an asteroid named after him.
Oh.
Also, a union of German research institutes, a German research prize, a German university, and a German brand of biscuit. I mean, you know you've made it when they name a biscuit after you.
Yep.
Round 3.
All right, Nikki, what do you think the next degree is?
You said the word asteroid in there, and asteroids are in space, and stars are also in space.
Are they?
But we were way too soon to get there. Are they? You shush. But he also talked about Latin a lot. He spoke Latin and wrote in Latin, and Latin seems like they must have used a lot of Latin for star-type things, for space things and research. I'm being very specific here. All the things. Let's go with asteroid.
Okay. Your guess of asteroid is incorrect. The next degree is physics.
Oh, okay. I can see how that could get there. Okay, maybe.
Yeah.
I say that now, but we all know I'm wrong.
Physics, I'm just going to warn you right now, is science. Not one of my best subjects. Okay. Physics is a natural science that studies matter and its motion and behavior through space-time. It's one of the oldest and most fundamental scientific disciplines, and its goal is understanding how the universe behaves, which is a tiny, easy goal to achieve, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Physics intersects with interdisciplinary areas, not Ares, the god of war, areas of research like biophysics and quantum chemistry, though the boundaries of physics are not very well defined. Advances in the field often lead to new technology. So, like, understanding one thing leads to the development or advancement of ideas in another thing.
All interconnected.
Yeah. Advances in thermodynamics led to the development of industrialization. That would be one example. Early modern Europeans used experimental methods to discover what are now considered the laws of physics. And some of the major developments during that time were the replacement of the geocentric model of the solar system. So,
yes.
Earth being the center of the universe. Also, pioneering work on telescopes, observational astronomy, the laws of motion and universal gravitation, and calculus.
So you're saying physics isn't really an influential field?
I mean, nobody even studies it anymore, honestly. Yeah. It's very outdated. Greater research efforts during the Industrial Revolution led to new laws regarding thermodynamics, chemistry, and electromagnetics. Modern physics began in the early 20th century with the work done by Max Planck and Albert Einstein, who you may have heard of.
Maybe.
Physics is somewhat stemmed from ancient Greek philosophy, as the philosophers attempted to advance and analyze their theories of nature. So it started with philosophy, and also went into nature, and then kind of turned into physics. You know, because it used to be magic, but then it was science, that kind of thing.
What, Clarke's third law.
Since the 20th century, fields of physics have gotten more and more specialized, and most physicists that work today only work in a single field for their entire career. An interesting fact about physics: universalists are physicists that work in multiple fields of physics, and they're very rare. Can you guess who one was?
Einstein!
Einstein
Yay.
was a universalist. Very, very bright man.
Round 4.
All right, Nikki.
Yes.
We still have several degrees to go to get to star, so what do you think the next degree is?
I wrote down so many things. But the most interesting ones that I think could lead to star are solar system, and telescopes, and geocentrism, and Einstein. And for me, Einstein's the most interesting one, so I'm going with Einstein.
Okay. Your guess of Einstein is incorrect. That would have been a good one, though.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll give you that.
Okay, thanks.
The next degree is spacetime.
I did not write that down.
Spacetime is any mathematical model that combines the 3 dimensions of space with the 1 dimension of time, creating a 4-dimensional continuum.
Okay.
It used to be believed that the 3-dimensional geometry of the universe was separated from the 1 dimension of time, but in 1905, Albert Einstein's seminal work, or classic paper, stated that 1. The law of physics are identical in all inertial systems, and 2. The speed of light in a vacuum is the same for all observers, regardless of the motion of the light source. All of that put together means space and time are inseparably joined. Einstein framed his theory in terms of kinematics, which is the study of moving bodies, and the theory was a breakthrough advance.
Ooh, good job, Einstein.
Yeah, here's an interesting fact about space-time. I thought this was going to be a really cool sci-fi article, but it turns out it's totally nonfiction, actual science with a bunch of math thrown in, and it would take me a semester of lectures to understand it enough to explain it to you.
Just a semester? It sounds confusing.
At least a semester.
Round 5.
Nikki, I know I gave you a lot of information about that. What do you think the next degree is?
I wrote down a couple. Speed of light. Still more spacey things. For star. I also wrote down Einstein. Because you talked about Einstein again, and Einstein, I still want to know. You know, I'm picking Einstein again. Let's do it.
Okay.
I'm going to pick him until you say it's right.
Your guess of Einstein is incorrect again. The next degree is kinematic. Yeah, that's where I went.
I didn't even know that was a word until today.
Yeah. Kinematics is a branch of classical mechanics that describes the motion of objects or group of objects without considering their mass or the force that caused the motion.
Okay. See where this is going.
Often referred to as the geometry of motion, and it's sometimes seen as a branch of mathematics. It's a description of motion, not what causes the motion. And it uses position, velocity, and acceleration.
Okay.
In mechanical engineering, robotics, and biomechanics, kinematics is used to describe the motion of a system that are composed of joined parts. In astrophysics, kinematics is used to describe the motion of celestial bodies. Kinematic analysis is the process of measuring the quantities used to describe the motion, such as the range of movement for a mechanism. The kinematics of a particle's trajectory include velocity and speed, acceleration, and relative position, plus relative velocity and relative acceleration. The formula to get this information changes depending on many things like the frame of reference and kinematic constraints. Kinematic constraints have two forms. One, constraints that come from hinges, sliders, and joints, or number two, constraints imposed on the velocity of the system.
Okay.
I do not have an interesting fact for this article because it was boring.
We have some kinematicists out there that are very upset at that.
I tried to find an interesting fact. I really did. I just couldn't.
Round 6.
All right, Nikki, you've got one more degree to go. What do you think the last degree to star is?
Well, you didn't say Einstein, so I can't pick him.
Darn it!
But you did say celestial bodies. And a star is a celestial body. So I pick celestial body. Am I right?
Your guess of celestial bodies is correct.
Yes! Oh my god, finally! I finally got one right. It's been so long. I'm so happy.
The article for celestial bodies actually is redirected to astronomical objects.
Okay.
An astronomical object is a naturally occurring physical entity that exists in the observable universe. Celestial bodies refers to a single entity, while celestial objects is less cohesively bound and could be several bodies or objects.
Oh, like Saturn and its rings.
Yes.
Okay.
Or like a galaxy.
Ah, okay.
Objects include planetary systems, galaxies, and clusters. Bodies include moons, planets, and stars. A comet could be both, depending on whether or not you include the tail. The universe, if it was described as a hierarchy, starts with the galaxy. Galaxies are organized into groups and clusters, often with superclusters, and are strung along past empty voids, and they sort of form a web. Most galaxies have a supermassive black hole at their core.
It's a great song by Muse.
Totally a great song. I remember buying the single on a CD. Gaseous matter forms the components of the galaxy, including stars, asteroids, comets, and debris. An interesting fact about celestial bodies. Galaxies have satellites in the form of dwarf galaxies, which are composed of 100 million to a few billion stars. Those are dwarf galaxies.
Wow. So, if that's a dwarf galaxy, what's a normal-sized galaxy?
Yes, that is small compared to the Milky Way's galaxy of 200 to 400 billion stars.
I can't imagine that. That's insane.
There are more than 20 known dwarf galaxies in orbit in the Milky Way.
Oh my gosh.
You can't wrap your head around it.
It is inconceivable.
It absolutely is. Correct usage of the word inconceivable. And that leads us to our last degree, star.
Star.
A star is a type of astronomical object consisting of luminous spheroid of plasma held together by its own gravity. The nearest star to Earth is the Sun, though there are many other stars that are visible from Earth at night. Prominent stars have been grouped into constellations. Astronomers have created star catalogs to identify known stars and to standardize stellar designations. Most of the stars outside of the Milky Way are invisible to the naked eye or even to the most powerful telescope. A star's life begins with the gravitational collapse of gaseous nebula of materials that includes hydrogen, helium, and some heavier elements. When the core is dense enough, the hydrogen converts into helium through nuclear fusion and releases energy in the process. The star's internal pressure keeps it from collapsing under its own gravity. Sometimes the heavier elements fuse with the core, and as the star expands, it throws parts of its mass into the interstellar environment to be recycled as new stars.
Oh.
The core can then become a white dwarf, a neutron star, or a black hole. Stars have been part of religious practices for many years and have been used for celestial navigation and orientation. The motion of the sun and the horizon were used to create calendars. The most commonly used calendar, the Gregorian, which we've talked about before, is a solar calendar based on the angle of the Earth's rotational axis relative to the sun. The oldest accurately dated star chart was Egyptian astronomy in 1534 BC.
Man, those Egyptians were all over it.
Yes, they like them stars. Ancient Babylonian astronomers compiled the earliest known star catalog sometime between 1531 and 1155 BC. In 300 BC, the first star catalog in Greek astronomy was created, and many of the constellation star names that we use now came from that time. Chinese astronomers were the first to observe and record a supernova in 185 AD. And medieval Islamic astronomers invented numerous astronomical instruments that could compute the position of the stars, and they built the first large observatory research institute.
That's cool.
Here's an interesting fact about stars.
There are so many.
In April 2018, so less than 2 months ago, astronomers reported the detection of the most distant main sequence star, named Icarus, at 9 billion light years away.
How can you measure that far?
Listen up, I'm not done. Last month, in May 2018, a team of astronomers reported that the detection of the most distant oxygen ever in the universe led them to detecting the most distant galaxy ever observed, and they inferred that the signal was emitted, you're never even going to guess.
Was it coming from inside the house?
13.3 billion years ago.
That's a long time.
This was 500 million years after the Big Bang.
Man.
We've made it through all 6 degrees. We went from Phenomenon to Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz, to physics, to spacetime, to kinematic, to celestial bodies, to stars. Nikki, what did you think of this spiral?
It was really cool. There were a lot of things I had no idea about. And I do not know much in the world of science, so there were a lot of new facts for me that I didn't know. Like the word kinematic and what all that means and all the physics information. I will admit I was disappointed that there was no Einstein, but I will forgive you this time.
You tried really hard to get Einstein in there.
I really tried. Just wouldn't go for it. No. But there were some really cool things, and I feel bad for the guy that they said was a cheater and a plagiarist.
Yeah, Leibniz.
It's time for Cheek of the Week. Today we're reading not 1, but 2 new reviews that we have gotten.
Reviews!
We love reviews!
Our first review is from Jenny, who is co-host of the Wives' Tales podcast. 5 stars. Love this so much. Okay, I feel like this is how my brain works. Bouncing around with definite points of connection. Great concept, easy to listen to, and for sure binge-worthy. Well put together podcast. I'm subscribed and not so patiently awaiting more. Thank you, Jenny. That was such a nice review.
That was really good.
Jenny's podcast is called Wives' Tale, and she hosts it with her cousin. And their podcast is the two of them telling each other strange and unusual stories about folklore and legends. They're creepy and funny, and the gals have amazing Texas accents. So we would recommend listening to their podcast as well.
Definitely. Our second review is from lovely listener Theron Schultz. It's from Facebook. And Theron says, 5 stars. 6 Degrees of Wiki is the rare podcast that combines a great concept, chemistry between the hosts, and endless fascinating facts. I learn something new in every episode, and sometimes roll my eyes at Rosanna and Nikki missing the obvious answer, only to find out that I was wrong too. I look forward to many wiki spirals in the future. Smiley face.
Oh, Theron, that's so nice. Thank you.
That is really nice.
It's so fun to hear that people enjoy guessing.
I was going to get offended about the obvious answer until you were also wrong, and it made me feel better because I am wrong all the time.
That's so great. Thank you, everybody, for sending in their reviews. We've got several more to read over the next few episodes, and we love to post them, too, on our social media.
We really do.
So keep them coming.
Rosanna makes really nice graphics out of each one, too, that we post on social media for everyone to see.
I just love to read when people talk about how great we are. So, there you go.
It's nice to see that other people enjoy learning things like we do.
It is. We have fun.
Yes.
We're glad other people are having fun, too. That's our episode. Tune in next time for another 6 Degrees of Wiki. You can keep up with us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at 6 Degrees of Wiki.
If you enjoyed this podcast, you can support the show by leaving a review, buying 6 Degrees of Wiki merch like t-shirts, mugs, and bags, or even by donating directly to the show at 6degreesofwiki.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.